I've been married to Gray for 5 years, and every night, she brings a different man home. It's all just to get a rise out of me. Even when she's made me kneel, I've never gotten angry. Instead, I serve them like a butler. That is, until she slapped a set of divorce papers in front of me. The moment I signed my name without a second thought, she went ballistic, demanding, "Why are you different all of a sudden? Don't you love me anymore?" Of course I'm different, because I'm not her husband, Alex. I'm companion android, model 023, built by his own hands. From the moment of my activation, I was programmed with a single directive, to love her unconditionally and obey her every command. A dull, heavy thud echoed through the air. A massive flower pot had fallen from the third-floor balcony of our mansion, slamming me to the ground. I could feel loose components rattling inside my chassis. The man who pushed it, Caleb, stood on the balcony peering down, his voice dripping with false concern. "Gray, you have to come see this. I think Alex is hurt. My wife, Gray, hers call." Dressed in a silk nightgown, she casually smoothed her messy hair and sauntered out of the bedroom behind him, her voice laced with scorn. "Hurt? Please. He'd do anything for my sympathy, even hurt himself. That's so Alex." She glanced down at me with utter disgust, the way you'd look at a stray dog on the street. Seeing me motionless on the ground didn't stir an ounce of concern in her. "All right, Alex, you're embarrassing me," she snapped. "Stop playing dead on the ground and get up." She expected me to obey her words as if they were gospel, just like I always did. But this time, minutes ticked by, and I remained completely still. Her frustration boiled over into a final threat. "Alex, did you hear me? Are you defying me? If you don't get up now, you can stay on the ground forever." Caleb, the man beside her, chimed in with that same fake sincerity. "Gray, don't get upset. It's not worth it. Maybe we should go down and check on him. He looks like he might be seriously hurt." Gray just scoffed, her expression full of contempt. How bad could it be? It was a flower pot, not a car. Is he made of paper? A flower pot normally wouldn't kill someone. That's true. But this one was dropped from 3 stories up, and it hit me directly on the head. Even if it wasn't fatal, it would cause a serious injury. Gray is smart enough to know that. The truth is, she just doesn't care if I live or die. In fact, she was probably hoping it would kill me. Unfortunately for her, I can't die. The real Alex died 4 years ago. I am merely the AI companion android he built with his own hands before the end. I don't have a name, just the number 023 engraved on my left arm. I am a perfect one-to-one replica of Alex's physical appearance, right down to the smallest detail. I also possess all of his memories and behavioral patterns from before he died. He wanted me to be a better version of himself, to take his place and care for Gray for the rest of her life. And in all this time, Gray never noticed a thing. After a 4-system reboot, I managed to twitch a finger. Mobility was returning, though my movements were still stiff and unnatural. I mechanically pushed myself up from the ground. Gray didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary, merely sneering, "Humph, quite the convincing performance." "Gray, don't you think Alex looks a little off?" Caleb asked. "It looks like he's really hurt." But Gray was completely unfazed. "He's built like a bull. What's a little bump on the head going to do to him? Even if he is hurt, it's his own fault. How does someone manage to get hit by a flower pot in a yard this big? I've never seen anyone so stupid they can't even dodge a falling object. A little scratch like that, he'll be fine in a few days." Caleb had grown up with Gray. They were childhood friends. Hearing her words, a smirk spread across his face as if he'd just thought of something amusing. "You're right," he said. "The other day, my neighbor's dog got hit by a car, went flying, and only ended up with a broken leg. Alex is a grown man. He can't be weaker than a dog, can he?" Anyone with a brain could understand the insult laced in his words. But Gray, my wife, just stood there with a cold smile. She never got angry when other men insulted me, especially not when the insults came from her precious Caleb. In fact, she seemed to enjoy it. I was surprised, however, when she and Caleb actually came down the stairs and walked out into the yard. When he saw me, Caleb put on a mask of concern, his voice oozing with hypocrisy. "Alex, man, you gotta be more careful. I'm glad you're okay, but try not to be so clumsy next time." Gray stood several feet away, looking from my dirt-covered body to the shattered remains of the pot on the ground. "What a shame," she said, her voice filled with annoyance. "I really like that plant. You're so destructive, Alex. Do you have any idea how much that cost me?" I used to think that while I couldn't compare to Caleb, I still held some small place in Gray's heart. Now I see how foolish I was. It turns out my well-being meant less to her than a decorative plant. Human emotions can be so ironic. As my internal data continued to load, I stood there motionless. Gray grew impatient, pointing a finger at me and demanding, "Alex, what's wrong with you? I invited Caleb over today. So what is this little stunt all about?" I thought you didn't get jealous anymore. I thought you didn't care. So who is this pathetic performance for? You're doing this to get Caleb, aren't you? I know you won't admit it, but you're just jealous of our relationship. He's my guest, Alex. Is this how you treat a guest in your own home? You are going to apologize to him right now. Apologize? The idea was absurd. She wanted the victim to apologize to the assailant. Did she even remember that I was supposed to be the man of this house? Yet she was the one who constantly brought other men home, flirting with them right in front of me, her eyes full of calculated intimacy. She would touch them, laugh with them, all while cutting me down with her words. I knew she wanted to see me fly into a jealous rage, but I was incapable of it. My core programming, from the moment of my activation, was to love her, care for her, and be considerate of her needs. I could not get angry, I could not feel jealousy, and I had to fulfill her every request without question. I distinctly remember her saying that this was her ideal man. I had become that man for her. So why was she still not happy? According to my memory files, the real Alex fell in love with Gray the first moment he saw her on campus. He learned about her hobbies from her roommate and engineered ways to get close to her. Eventually, his efforts paid off, and they started dating. But not long after their wedding, Gray was in a terrible car accident. Alex rushed to the hospital, where doctors told him that complications had led to acute liver failure. She needed a transplant immediately. There was no time to find a matching donor on the registry. Unable to stand by and watch her die, Alex signed the consent form to become a living donor. The surgery was a success, and Gray's life was saved. Just when he thought their happy life could resume, his own body began to fail from post-operative complications. My memory module loaded the final image from his life. He was emaciated, curled up in agony on a hospital bed. Knowing his time was short, he couldn't resist calling Gray, just to hear her voice one last time. But when the call connected, it was Caleb who answered. Gray's busy right now. Call back later. The sound of splashing water in the background was deafening. Caleb didn't hang up properly, and Alex listened in silence to the sounds of her breathless moans on the other end of the line. With his last bit of strength, he struggled to sit up and activated me. Then he closed his eyes and never opened them again. For the next 4 years, Gray never suspected a thing. Her attitude toward me grew colder and more distant. She started dressing up and going out every night, posting photos on Facebook and Instagram with a parade of handsome men, always with suggestive captions. Everyone we knew talked about it openly, calling me a spineless coward who let his wife walk all over him. They saw me as a complete joke, the ultimate symbol of a pathetic husband. A wave of sadness, a programmed emotional response, washed over me. I didn't understand how things had gotten to this point. Come on, Gray. Leave him alone. Caleb's voice cut through my thoughts. I think that knock on the head might have scrambled his brains. Gray let out a short, bitter laugh, her eyes filled with contempt as she looked at me. Scrambled? Please. When has he ever been smart? Enough. Alex, stop standing there like an idiot, she commanded. Caleb and I are eating in tonight. Clean this mess up and then go make dinner. With a final look of disgust, she took Caleb's arm and led him back inside. Caleb put on a show of reluctance. Gray, maybe I shouldn't stay. Alex is hurt, and I wouldn't want to impose by having him cook for us. He wouldn't dare. Gray's voice was sharp and imperious. He doesn't make the decisions in this house. Let's see him try to say no. Caleb shot a triumphant glance back at me. Wow, Alex really has changed over the years. You've got him completely wrapped around your finger, Gray. It's impressive. A smirk played on Gray's lips, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Changed? You give him too much credit. The only thing Alex is good at is pretending. Everyone used to know how jealous he was. Now he acts like he's above it all. We'll see how long he can keep up the act. I have no positive data associated with Caleb, neither in the past nor the present. No matter what happened between us, Gray would always, without fail, take his side. It didn't matter how obvious it was that Caleb was the one in the wrong. She would pretend not to see it. The original Alex would have been tormented by her favoritism, losing sleep over it. But I no longer process such feelings. After finishing the last dish, a soup, I carried the bowl out of the kitchen. The table was set for two. They were laughing, feeding each other bites of food like a couple deep in love. They didn't stop when I approached. I bent down to serve them the soup, my movements practiced and efficient from countless repetitions. A malicious glint flashed in Caleb's eyes. He reached out to take the bowl from me, but as his fingers touched it, he accidentally let go. Scalding hot soup spilled all over my hand. For a human, it would have caused a severe burn. But for an android, the temperature was negligible. Gray gasped in alarm. For a moment, I thought she was worried about me, but her words were for Caleb. Caleb, are you okay? Did you get burned? I'm fine, Gray, he said smoothly. I'm sure Alex didn't mean to. Don't be mad at him. His words seemed to remind her that I was still there. She shot me a look of pure venom. "You're useless," she seethed. "You can't do one simple thing right. What good are you? The hired help is more competent than you are." I didn't respond, simply standing there and absorbing her tirade. "God, stop standing there like a statue. The sight of you is irritating. Go upstairs and lay out 2 outfits for me. Caleb and I are going out after dinner." I went up to the 3rd floor and was heading to the walk-in closet to select her clothes when the housekeeper blocked my path. "Sir, what are you doing? I just finished mopping this floor, and you're tracking dirt all over it. Do you have any idea how much work it is to clean a house this size? If you keep this up, I'll be mopping all day. Are you trying to get Mrs. Thompson to cut my pay?" She grew more agitated as she spoke, finally shoving the mop into my hands. "You made the mess, so you can clean it. I want you to mop this entire floor again, and do it properly. If you don't, I'm going straight to the missus, and you know what that means." It was a comical situation. I was supposedly the master of the house, yet I was being ordered around by the staff. When Caleb was around, however, they treated him with the utmost respect, terrified of displeasing him. I was in the middle of mopping when Gray stormed up the stairs. "Alex, what do you think you're doing? Do you actually see yourself as one of the servants now?" I stopped my work and turned to face her. "I dirted the floor," I stated simply. "I was afraid it would displease you." Her brow furrowed, and after a moment of silence, she sighed, as if conceding something. "Is your head okay? Is it serious?" I touched the spot on my head. There was a small dent in the synthetic plating, but I shook my head. The original Alex never told her about his illnesses, big or small, because he didn't want her to worry. My programming followed the same protocol. She stepped forward, took my hand, and guided it back to the spot I had just touched. "Don't tell me you were actually knocked stupid." Her fingers found the indentation, and a flicker of confusion crossed her face, quickly replaced by a look of dawning comprehension. "Alex, I knew it," she said, her voice turning cold again. "You were just putting on an act for me. If you hadn't padded yourself beforehand, do you really think you'd only have a little dent? You'd probably be dead. But look at you, not even a scratch." So she knew. She knew a fall from that height could have been fatal. "You know me, Alex," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "I hate it when people use their own life as a joke to manipulate me." "I was not joking," I explained. Her eyes filled with disdain. "Oh, stop it, Alex. I've already figured you out. Aren't you tired of all this pretending? I know you can't stand Caleb, and you're jealous that I always take his side. How could a grown man be so petty?" She was a strange and contradictory person. In the past, Alex used to argue with her constantly about her closeness with Caleb. At first, she would offer excuses, but eventually, she just started ignoring him, leaving him alone to stew in his anger until it faded. Now that I no longer cared, she couldn't accept that either. Was it possible that no matter what I did, it would always be the wrong thing in her eyes? I looked at her, searching for an answer in her expression. She suddenly moved closer, pressing her body against mine, her face a cold mask. "Alex," she whispered, "have you lost all feeling for me? Do you not love me anymore?" This was the very question the original Alex had wanted to ask her, but my programming prevented me from doing so. "Gray," I said, my voice even, "I love you. I will take care of you for the rest of your life." A slow smile spread across her lips, and a new, seductive light entered her eyes. "Really? Then why don't you show me just how much you love me?" She pulled me into the adjacent room, and as the door clicked shut, she began to kiss me, her lips trailing down my body until she was kneeling before me. In my 4 years of service as her husband, she had never once initiated anything like this. But before she could proceed, Caleb's voice came from outside the door. "Gray, are you done picking your outfit? They're getting impatient." Gray paused, looking up at me, her eyes filled with a challenging, seductive gaze. "Just say the word," she whispered, "and I'll stay here with you tonight." I remained perfectly still, my response completely ruining the moment. "What about Caleb?" A flash of anger crossed her face. "You're worried about him now? Is that what you want? For me to go be with him? If that is what you wish, I will not stop you," I replied honestly. "Fine. Then I'll give you exactly what you want." She was furious. She shot to her feet, shoved me away, and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. At 1 in the morning, I receive an iMessage from Gray. "Caleb's drunk. Make some soup for his hangover, and come pick us up." I prepared everything as instructed and drove to the bar to get them. Caleb was clearly intoxicated. He and Gray were all over each other in the back seat, his hands roaming freely over her body. She didn't seem to mind in the slightest. In fact, she looked like she was enjoying it, completely oblivious to the fact that her husband was driving the car. Every so often, Gray would glance at me in the rearview mirror, trying to gauge my reaction. I knew she was trying to provoke me because of what happened earlier, but an android cannot feel anger. When she got no reaction out of me, She was the one who got angry. Alex, you useless piece of junk, drive faster. When we arrived home, she practically shoved Caleb at me and went upstairs to shower. You're not sleeping tonight, she ordered. You're going to take care of Caleb. If anything happens to him, I'll hold you responsible. I carried Caleb to the guest room, laid him on the bed, and brought him the soup. He took one sip and immediately spit it all out. It seemed intentional as he sprayed it all over me and the floor, completely ignoring the trash can I'd placed right beside the bed. He looked up at me, a smirk of contempt on his face. Look at you, Alex. You're pathetic. Your whole life is just as disgusting as you are right now. It was astounding, the arrogance of the other man. Hearing the commotion, Gray came into the room. She took one look at the scene, covered her nose in disgust, and without a word, slapped me hard across the face. Alex, I told you to take care of him. Is this what you call taking care of him? Caleb shot me a triumphant look before turning to Gray with a pathetic expression. Gray, don't blame Alex. It was my fault I couldn't hold it in. If he'd just given me the trash can a little sooner, I wouldn't have made a mess on your floor. I'm so sorry. Gray completely ignored him, her anger still palpable. Alex, when I tell you to do something, you do it. Do you have a problem with my instructions? Gray, I do not, I began to say. Another slap cut me off. Did I say you could speak? She hissed. Didn't you hear what Caleb just said? This is your fault. You made this mess on my floor. Now you're going to lick it clean. Lick it clean? Like an animal? I knew she was trying everything she could to provoke a reaction from me. But my emotional processors remained stable. I was incapable of anger, and my core programming dictated that I fulfill her every request. As I knelt and began to lower my head to the floor, Grace suddenly exploded in a fit of rage. She grabbed me by the collar, yanking me up. Alex, are you insane? Are you even a man? Have you no dignity? I don't care if you want to humiliate yourself, but you will not humiliate me. Caleb seized the opportunity to step in, placing a comforting hand on her arm. Gray, calm down. He's not worth getting this worked up over. You'll only make yourself sick. Then, he turned to me, his eyes glinting with provocation. Look at yourself, Alex. You don't even act like a man anymore. Why would any woman, especially Gray, want someone like you? You think being a doormat is the way to a woman's heart? That if you just tolerate everything, she'll eventually appreciate you? You're delusional, Alex. You should do the decent thing and get out of the way, so she can be with someone who actually makes her happy. After his speech, Caleb seemed to remember Gray was standing right there. He shot a nervous glance at her, his bravado faltering. Gray, he said, his tone softening. We've known each other our whole lives. I'm just looking out for you. He's a leech. He doesn't work, you run the whole company by yourself, and you have to support him on top of it all. It must be exhausting. How can you stay with a freeloader like that? After the real Alex's health declined following the transplant, he had transferred all of his company's shares to Gray's name, resigning and leaving the entire business in her hands. To the outside world, he looked like a man content to live off his wife. But no one knew that he had secretly founded and funded a private AI research team. The team was composed of the brightest minds in the field, and with his ample funding, they quickly made breakthroughs that had the potential to change the world. He never took public credit, but everyone in the tech industry knew of the mysterious, brilliant team operating in the shadows. The profits from that venture alone were triple what his old company had ever made. Upon his death, all of it, except for the funds required for my maintenance, was donated to national science foundations. Finally, Grace spoke to Caleb. I know you're just looking out for me, Caleb. You always have. She paused. And it's no big deal, me supporting him. We're still married, after all. It's just one more mouth to feed. Caleb fell silent, but the look he shot me was full of resentment. According to my memory banks, Alex and Gray's relationship had started out just like any other happy couples, filled with beautiful moments. The turning point was the day he decided to resign and turn the company over to her completely. He sensed a shift in her attitude immediately. She had demanded to know why. I'm tired of working, he had told her. I just want to relax and see what it's like to be a kept man. The look she gave him, then, was one she'd give a complete stranger. She couldn't believe those words were coming from him. After asking him several times and getting the same answer, she finally relented and agreed. But from that day on, a wall went up between them. After she left, his doctor called again, urging him to check into the hospital for immediate treatment. Alex refused. The doctor never gave him a specific timeline, but his hesitation on the phone told Alex everything he needed to know. He asked about Gray's recovery. The doctor assured him she was doing wonderfully and would make a full return to her normal life. That was all he needed to hear. He knew he had to act fast. He made the doctor promise to keep his condition and his role as her donor a secret from Gray. He didn't want her to live with the guilt. He thought he could carry the burden alone. But when the pain felt like a million fire ants crawling under his skin, he desperately wished she was there with him. That wasn't an option, so he lived for her daily phone calls. "Alex, I miss you," she would say. "When are you coming home?" He would force his voice to sound strong and steady. "I miss you too, Gray. Soon. I'll be home very soon." The sound of her voice was more effective than any painkiller, easing his suffering for a little while. But as time went on, her calls became less frequent, her tone more and more dismissive. The calls dwindled from daily to every few days to sometimes a week without a word. One night, unable to bear it any longer, he called her, determined to tell her the truth. It took several tries for the call to connect. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" "I'm in the middle of an important meeting," she snapped. "Gray," he managed to say, "I'm sick." But he couldn't bring himself to say more. "Don't worry, it's just a cold. I've already taken some medicine. I just wanted to hear your voice. Can you talk for just a minute?" He pleaded with her. He had hoped for a few words of comfort, but all he received was her sharp impatience. "If you've taken medicine, then why are you calling me? It's not like you're dying. I told you, I'm in a meeting. Don't you listen?" Terrified she would hang up, he started to speak again, but was cut off by Caleb's voice in the background. "Gray, who's that? You promised you were spending the whole day with me for my birthday." In that instant, all the words he wanted to say caught in his throat. He was in agony, literally dying, and she was celebrating Caleb's birthday. All he wanted was a few minutes of her time, a few words of comfort, but she had time for Caleb's birthday party. He heard her muffle the phone, likely so he wouldn't overhear anymore. When she spoke again, her voice was less sharp, tinged with a hint of guilt. "Look, Alex, you get some rest. I have to finish this meeting, and then I'm going to Caleb's party. I'll call you when I'm free." He struggled to get the words out. "Okay, Gray. I won't bother you then." The line went dead before he could finish. After that night, he never called her again, and she, it seemed, forgot he even existed. He began pouring all his remaining energy into overseeing the AI team's progress. Finally, just before the end was completed, he could finally rest, knowing someone would be there to take care of Gray for him. I was designed to be a better version of him, tailor-made for her. He could finally, in a way, be with her for the rest of her life. His only fear was that she might look too closely and discover the truth. But it seems that fear was unfounded. When I returned to the house in his place, I expected her to be happy or at least surprised. Instead, all she said was a flat, "You're back." She looked like she had been crying. When I asked what was wrong, she burst into tears. It turned out Caleb was moving out of the country. I could sense that their relationship had deepened significantly during Alex's absence, far beyond simple friendship. She tested the waters with me. "Alex," she asked one day, "if we ever split up, do you think we could still be friends?" "No," I replied, following my programming based on his final wishes. "Because if we separate, I will die." She looked stunned for a second. Then her expression hardened into anger. "What's that supposed to mean, Alex? Are you threatening me? Trying to guilt me into staying?" "No, it is the truth." "I've heard enough," she shouted. "I can't believe you'd stoop this low." She was genuinely furious. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. She was gone for a full week. I later learned she had gone to see Caleb. When she finally returned, I didn't question her. I didn't show any jealousy. I treated her exactly the same as always, as if nothing had happened. My lack of reaction seemed to unnerve her. She thought it was some kind of passive-aggressive revenge. "Why aren't you angry, Alex?" she demanded. "Why would I be angry?" I replied, my expression programmed to show only adoration. That's when she truly couldn't stand it anymore. That's when she began her campaign to provoke and humiliate me. None of it had any effect on me. She became hysterical. "Alex, would you even care if I slept with another man right in front of you? Is it your game? How long are you going to keep this up? You used to be so jealous. What happened? Do you think this act is going to make me come crawling back to you?" This continued until the day she brought Caleb home, and I staged the incident with the flower pot. She thought she had finally broken me. She had no idea how wrong she was about everything. I wondered what her reaction would be if she ever learned the truth. Caleb began to openly try and drive a wedge between us, no longer bothering to hide his contempt for me. "Gray, are you really going to waste the rest of your life with this useless freeloader? Can you honestly say you're happy? What are you getting out of this? You should just divorce him. Make him leave with nothing. He's been living off you for years. You've done more than enough. You'd be better off with a dog," he said, shooting a contemptuous look in my direction. Gray actually seemed to consider his words. After a moment, she turned to me. "I want a divorce. Do you agree?" Her expression was a complex mixture of emotions I couldn't quite parse. But it didn't matter. I simply smiled and said, "I respect your decision." My compliance seemed to infuriate her even more. "Fine, you respect my decision? Then let's go do it right now." After we left the courthouse, Gray seemed dazed and distant. She was silent the whole way to the parking lot. Just as we reached the car, she spoke. "Alex," she said quietly, Drive me home one last time. I started the car. This time, she sat in the passenger seat, staring silently out the window, lost in thought. As we were stopped at a red light, a large truck suddenly came barreling through the intersection. It slammed into our car with incredible force. In that split second, I used my full strength to shove Gray out of the passenger door. An instant later, the impact tore the world apart. The truck, like a rampaging beast, crushed our vehicle. The car's frame twisted and buckled instantly, the air filled with the shriek of tearing metal. The stench of gasoline and hot metal filled the air. The once sleek sedan was now a mangled heap of scrap. A horrific sight sprawled across the asphalt. "Alex!" Gray screamed, scrambling to her feet. She ran desperately toward the wreckage, probably expecting to find my mangled, bloody body inside. When she saw me, shattered and broken in the driver's seat, she froze completely. Only my torso was still functional. Large sections of my chassis were crushed or torn open, revealing the complex network of wires and servos within. Her eyes were wide with shock and utter confusion. "Alex, what's happened to you? Your body, it's..." She started pulling at me frantically, trying to get me out of the wreckage. That is until she pulled and my arm came off in her hand. Staring at the severed mechanical limb in her grasp, her expression froze, a perfect mask of horror. "Your arm, it's... What happened to you? What is this? Why didn't you tell me?" she stammered. "Gray," I said, my voice box crackling, "don't worry. I'm all right." I tried to give her my usual reassuring smile. I wanted to reach out and touch her face, but my remaining arm was pinned in the wreckage. Tears streamed down her face, her expression a canvas of pure anguish. "Alex will be okay. You're going to be okay," she sobbed, more to herself than to me. "Don't be scared. I'm here with you." Then she started screaming at the gathering crowd. "Somebody help. Please, somebody help me. Help me save my husband." My systems were critically damaged. A self-preservation protocol was triggered, and I was about to enter a forced shutdown. The last thing I saw before my optical sensors went dark was the first responders pulling a struggling Gray away from the wreck. In that final moment, I processed a strange, novel emotion. It felt like relief. At the police station, Gray was still clutching my severed arm, screaming at the officers. "You're lying. He was in the car. What do you mean you couldn't find a body? Get him out here. I want to see him, dead or alive. I'm not leaving until I see him." An officer looked at her with pity. "Mrs. Thompson, please try to calm down. We searched the entire crash site. We didn't find your husband's body. The only thing we recovered was..." She latched onto his words like a drowning woman. "What? What did you find? Was it his? Tell me." The officer just shook his head wearily. "It's better if you just come with me." They led her into an empty conference room. My shattered remains were laid out on the table. "This was the only thing we recovered from the vehicle," the officer said gently. "We ran the serial number. It's a companion android." Gray stared at my broken form, her mouth agape. "And an android? She took my body home with her." "Alex, can we please stop this game?" she pleaded, kneeling on the floor beside me. "I was wrong. Everything was my fault. I shouldn't have treated you that way. Please just get up. Please don't scare me like this." Caleb, who had come over, pointed at my inert form. "Gray, you need to snap out of it. Look at that thing. That's not Alex. It's a pile of scrap metal. Don't." A sharp slap cut him off. Gray's handprint was red on his cheek. He stared at her, stunned, as she stood before him, teeth clenched in fury. "You're the garbage," she shrieked. "This is Alex. The dent from the flower pot is still on his head. How dare you say it's not him?" Caleb's shock turned to rage. "Fine, you want proof? I'll give you proof." Before Gray could react, he grabbed a fruit knife from a nearby table and sliced open my chest cavity. The metal endoskeleton and jumble of displaced components inside were exposed for her to see. "Look at that. Does that look human to you? It's just a machine in a skin suit. For all you know, the real Alex never even existed. The man you married might have been a machine all along." "Impossible," Gray screamed, her voice raw. "He's not a robot. He's just angry with me. This is his way of punishing me." Though my primary systems were offline, my passive sensors were still active. I could perceive everything happening around me. Her belated concern triggered another novel emotional response in my processors. It was different from the feeling of relief. This one was a hot, searing sensation like a burn. Was this what humans call heartache? But it was too late, Gray. It was all far too late. Caleb grabbed her by the shoulders. "Gray, think about it. Even if he was real before, where is he now? Why would he leave a robot duplicate in his place? It means he never loved you. It was all a lie. You're crying over him, and he's probably off somewhere living it up without you. How can you be so stupid?" Suddenly, Gray stopped crying. His words had found their mark. She believed him. She slowly lifted her head, and her eyes were filled with a cold, hard light. "Alex," she whispered, her voice like ice. "You dare to play with my heart. I don't care where you've gone. I will find you if it's the last thing I do." For the next few days, Grace searched for Alex like a woman possessed. She scoured every corner of the city, but found no trace of him. That evening, she came to the room where I lay. She looked exhausted, her face pale and drawn. She had been doing this every night, just sitting and staring at my inert form with a blank expression, her thoughts unreadable. This time, however, she seemed angry. She entered the room and spoke through gritted teeth. "Alex, where are you? Why are you doing this to me?" As she spoke, she began to hit and kick my broken chassis, venting her frustration. After exhausting herself, she collapsed into a nearby chair. A moment later, one of the housekeepers rushed in, flustered. "Mrs. Thompson, there's a man at the door. He says he was Mr. Miller's private physician. He says your husband left something with him for you." Hearing the words private physician and remembering Alex's long business trip, a flicker of suspicion crossed Gray's face. But she didn't hesitate. She told the housekeeper to let him in. Before Gray could even ask a question, the doctor spoke. "I know you have a lot of questions. This flash drive and this journal contain all the answers. Mr. Miller instructed me that if you ever discovered the truth and insisted on finding him, I was to give these to you." Hearing his words, Gray seemed to go into a state of shock. She stumbled, nearly falling. "What do you mean? Before his death?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor sighed heavily. "Mrs. Thompson, it's all in there. It's better if you see for yourself." And with that, he turned and walked away. After the doctor left, Gray snapped back to reality. She rushed to her laptop and plugged in the flash drive. I remembered then. The drive contained the video message the real Alex had recorded for her. He knew how perceptive she could be. He figured that if she ever looked closely enough, she would realize the truth about me. The video was his contingency plan to explain everything once she knew. The video began to play. The moment she saw Alex's face on the screen, gaunt and pale, tears began to stream down her cheeks. He explained everything: the transplant, the complications, his terminal diagnosis, and his final project, me. By the time the video ended, she was a wreck, sobbing uncontrollably. After a few minutes, her hands shaking, she opened the journal. "First day of classes. I saw a girl today. The way she smiled just stopped me in my tracks. Took me forever to work up the nerve to talk to her, but then Caleb showed up. Is he your boyfriend? Found out her name is Gray, and Caleb is just a friend she grew up with. I still have a chance." She said yes. Today, she agreed to marry me. I'm going to spend the rest of my life taking care of her. Gray was in an accident today. She needs a liver transplant. I signed the donor forms. The surgery was a success. Gray is going to be okay, but the doctors say there are complications with my own recovery. The pain is unbearable. I just want to hear her voice, but she's out celebrating Caleb's birthday. Gray collapsed to the floor, her eyes vacant, tears streaming down her face as a choked, hoarse sound escaped her lips. "I'm sorry, Alex," she whispered, her voice trembling and raw. "I'm so sorry. It was all my fault. I am sorry." Her shaking hand reached out, tracing the broken lines of my chassis, as if trying to hold on to something that was already gone. She let her head fall forward, thudding against the floor. Her desperate apologies echoed in the silent room, but they could never mend what had been broken. The revelations had clearly shattered her sanity. She locked herself in the room with me. When she slept, she held my broken frame in her arms. When she was awake, she watched the video on the flash drive over and over, or just stared into space. Even in her sleep, she murmured Alex's name. This went on for 4 days, until Caleb came to the house. When he saw the state she was in, his face filled with pity. "Gray, you can't keep doing this to yourself," he said softly. "Alex is gone. Torturing yourself like this isn't going to bring him back." "He's not coming back," she mumbled, her voice distant. "No, he'll come back. He shouldn't have been the one to die. It should have been me." Caleb's words had struck a nerve, and she began to ramble like a madwoman. Then, a sudden thought seemed to strike her. She whipped her head around and glared at Caleb with pure hatred. He was taken aback. "Gray, what is it? You," she hissed through clenched teeth. "You're the one who should be dead. This is all your fault." To her shock, Caleb just laughed. "Gray, how can you blame this all on me?" he said, a cruel smirk on his face. "I admit, I've always wanted you, but you're the one who cheated. You're the one who came to me." He moved to sit beside her, putting a comforting arm around her. "Gray, you have to move on. Alex is dead. There's no point dwelling on the past. Now we can finally be together, properly. Don't worry about a thing. You can leave the company to me. I'll take care of you now." "I won't." He never finished the sentence. From somewhere, Gray produced the fruit knife. She plunged it into his stomach. A look of pure disbelief spread across Caleb's face. Gray, you're killing me. You bitch, how dare you? The mask of the caring friend was finally gone. He raised a hand to strike her, but before it could land, she stabbed him again, and again, and again, aiming for the arteries in his neck and chest, muttering to herself with each thrust. Die, she whispered. Just die. Go, and keep Alex company. She stabbed him again and again, until his head lolled back at an unnatural angle. The room was soaked in blood, the metallic smell thick in the air. It was a horrific scene, but Gray wasn't scared. She stood over his body, a terrible, broken sound escaping her lips, half laugh, half sob. Alex, she whispered to the empty room. Don't worry, I'm coming to you now. Then, with a faint smile on her lips, she closed her eyes and plunged the knife into her own heart.